Hey everybody, it's Angie and welcome to Hot and Flashy. In today's Foundation Friday for over 50s, I'm going to be reviewing the new foundation from Charlotte Tilbury. It's the Airbrush Flawless Foundation. This one retails for $44 for 1 ounce and it comes in 44 shades. Now, I probably look different today than I do when I'm starting most of my foundation reviews because today I'm starting off with no makeup on and we're going to go ahead and put this on, put it to the test. I have worn it a couple days already. Where it's appropriate, I'll bring in that footage to show you, but we're not going to slog through all like 3 or 4 days that I've worn it previously. So that's how we're going to do this one. So I do have my eye makeup done though, just because I always end up with fallout, and so I didn't want to kind of ruin the foundation and then have to, fix it up afterwards. So I'm going to put the foundation on second. So let's talk a little bit about what this foundation is supposed to be. As with all things Charlotte Tilbury, darling, you know it is magic. This contains not one, but 2 magical complexes. One of them is called Moselle Tech #1. That is supposed to increase skin hydration by 216%. And then there's another one called Magic Replexium that is supposed to reduce your wrinkles by 22%. There's also something in it called Air Cool technology for an instant fresh feeling. This is a magical recipe that will make you feel flawless. So I'm all for magic. I'm all for making my 57-year-old face look flawless. Who isn't? So let's see if it will do that for me and if I can recommend it to you guys today. It is supposed to be a stay all day, weightless, full coverage foundation with a natural matte finish, and it's good for all skin types. It comes in a glass bottle with a pump dispenser. The ingredients on here are nothing magical. They're pretty basic. It's water, silicone, and isododecaine as the base. The magical air cool technology in there is called mint. There is a menthol kind of ingredient, and when you put those on your skin, they impart a instant cooling effect. I actually got to say that I've used this twice already. Today's gonna be the 3rd time. Have never felt the cooling effect myself. This also contains a pretty good amount of fragrance. It does have a tiny amount of SD alcohol, which I don't like to see high on the ingredient list, and in here it's very, very low, so not going to have really any impact on your skin. I picked it up in 2 shades, hoping that one would match me. Sadly, neither of them did. I got it in 6 neutral and 8 cool. All right, so let's do a little swatch test with 6 neutral. Looks kind of pale and yellowy. I have a blending sponge here. Let me blend that out a little bit. See if that's going to work or not. I mean, it might. Alright, so here's 8 cool. I didn't go with a 7 because the 8 cool looked lighter than the 7s, which, sometimes they don't always go in order. This is cool. It looks lighter than 6. Let's try blending that around. That looks a little dark. But I find that if I mix these 2 together, I get a decent shade match that I can wear. So from my experience using this over the last couple of days, I find it to be a little bit drying. So I'm going to use a primer with it today that I find to be a little bit more hydrating. That is the Revlon Colorstay Prep and Protect Primer. I'm just going to use this around my T-zone, just a few places. This is also a very lightweight primer, and it does help my makeup to stay in place a little bit longer. And I also, based on wearing this the last couple of days, I feel like it could use a little help in the longevity area, but really just around my nose and forehead and chin. Everywhere else on my face, it seemed to stay in place really well for the entire day. All right, I've given the primer a couple minutes to set up. I've got the foundation mixed up on the back of my hand. This is 1 pump of 6 neutral with about a half to a quarter of a pump of 8 cool. I have used so far a brush and my fingers and a sponge to apply this, and I find that it definitely goes on much nicer with a blending sponge. So that's how I'm going to use it today. And this is a pretty thick formula. That's why it doesn't really go on well with the fingers. When I put it on with my fingers, it ended up giving me the polka dot pores, and it looked really thick and heavy and kind of cakey. And it was pretty much the same thing when I put it on with a brush. Yeah, okay, this doesn't really go on great with the brush or with the fingers. Both are giving me polka dot pores. Both are kind of skipping over creases in my skin, like pores and wrinkles. Hope you can see the little white polka dots in there, little peach colored polka dots in there on both sides. Hope it's going to focus. Definitely thicker coverage on the finger side, looking very makeup-y. Brush side is a little bit better. So I definitely prefer this one with a sponge to kind of sheer it out a little bit. I'm not that big into full coverage foundation, so I might not be the perfect candidate for this one. I prefer a little bit more of a natural look, but you know, I do have plenty of things on my skin that need covering up. So I like it to do its job of covering, but not looking cakey and really super makeup-y. Okay, so when I first put this on, you can see that it looks way yellow. My skin tone is much pinker in real life, and it also looks way lighter. This does oxidize a bit, so it will hopefully come up to look a little more lifelike throughout the day. I am meeting girlfriends for lunch, so I want my foundation to look nice today. I didn't use everything on the back of my hand, so I didn't use the full pump and a half, pump and a quarter. And where they say a little goes a long way, I didn't really want to make it look cakey. All right, putting it on with a sponge, this is definitely blended very nicely. I like the coverage that I'm getting out of it. It definitely is pigmented, and it gives a good high-medium coverage with only using maybe 3/4 of a pump of product. I could definitely build it up a little bit more, maybe a little bit on my chin or on my mouth, but otherwise I think it looks good, and that is enough coverage for me for today. It's looking a little bit luminous right now, but I have found over the other days that I've worn it that it does dry down to a nice matte finish. So let me give it a minute to dry back while I put on my under eye concealer. Taking a look at it up close, you can see that, you know, while my skin is certainly far from perfect, I have about 40 years of sun damage going on here with enlarged pores on my cheeks. You know, I think that it doesn't accentuate that. It's not giving me polka dot pores. The one thing that it does do right away is settle into my wrinkles, sadly. So it settles in these little guys here within minutes, and it also settles in my forehead wrinkles within minutes. So that's a bummer, but I did pick up the Charlotte Tilbury setting powder because I've heard great things about this. Of course, this is magic as well. This is the magic powder for under eyes and face, so we're going to give this a try. And even though I think the forehead and the cheeks do look pretty smooth with this, I'm going to go ahead and just powder them over a tiny bit. I'm just using the lightest little dusting. I'm not doing any like super heavy baking or anything. And let me just finish up my makeup with a little blush and bronzer, and then we'll do a few more tests on this, and then I'll wear it throughout my day and we'll see how it does. All right, blush and bronzer are on. Since we're going with Charlotte Tilbury today, let's do a little bit of Charlotte's Hollywood Flawless Filter, one of my favorite products of hers that actually is magical in how it leaves the loveliest highlight, and I like to put it on with a damp blending sponge. Be good to see how it goes. You know, a creamy product goes over the foundation once it's dry. So I just do a couple of little dots along the high points of my cheeks and blend that in. I'm not loving the setting powder because it has a little luminosity to it, so it's not really making my under eyes look smooth. I feel like I can see my eye bags a little bit too much. So I'm going to go ahead and use my Revlon Candid powder right over the top of that. I know, like 2 layers of powder. Eek! So much better when my under eyes aren't luminous. So anyway, from a distance, I think it looks good, as I do with everything. From up close, I think you can see the flaws with it right away, which is that it settles in the wrinkles, but that's the only one. If it weren't for that, I'd be like, yeah, this is nice looking foundation. The time now is 11:47. It's probably been on here for about 20 minutes, I'd say. So let's call the check-in time 11:15, and let me also go ahead and do the phone test. Nice and shiny clean with no marks on it. I always do this to see if the foundation transfers, so that felt like it was stuck there. Yeah, okay, pretty big face mark on it. Definitely not transfer proof. Let me do the flash test. Okay, here's a selfie with flash in darkened room. So you can take a look and see if you think it gives flashback. I think my face does look a little bit whiter than my neck and chest, so I would say yes to the flashback on this. All right, let me grab my vlogging camera, go out into the kitchen. We'll do the natural light, the kitchen light, and then I will check back in with you in another 5 hours. Here we are in the always lovely overhead yellowy kitchen light to check on the Charlotte Tilbury foundation. You know, from arm's length, I think the foundation looks nice. It's pretty, it has a nice finish. So check it out up close. All right, and here it is in natural window light. Bright sunshine for Charlotte Tilbury. I am wearing a chemical sunscreen under it today. It's a new one I just got from La Roche-Posay, and so hopefully that is not going to affect the wear or anything. I've already tried it on one day with my Make Prem UV Defense Me sunscreen and also my Holy Grail combo, which is the Ulta MD UV Elements SPF 44 mixed with a little bit of Paula's Choice SPF 30, the super light one. And both of those seemed pretty good, although it didn't wear for 10 full hours. I got pretty good, maybe 5 to 6 hour wear out of it, and then it was starting to look a little beat up and a little dry. I was going to birthday dinner with my daughter, and I actually think that my face looked good, like in the pictures that people took. I can bring in one of them to show you here. This is a picture that my dad took of me in a restaurant, and I think that the makeup looks good. And this is, let's see, probably about 6 hours in. Okay, 12 hours in Charlotte Tilbury. I don't think it looks horrible. It certainly hasn't gotten shiny or greasy, but it does look kind of dry and makeup-y. There's a big skin flake in the middle of my nose. There wasn't really anything too revealing from the first 2 days that was different from today, except that yesterday I felt like it was really drying, so I should probably bring that in to show you. Okay, I made it almost to 10 hours. It'll be 10 hours at 12:15. I hate wearing my glasses. They dent my nose. Not loving the Charlotte Tilbury at the full 10 hours. It is so drying. I'm so dry around my mouth and here on my forehead, and where it's settled in the wrinkles doesn't look good. The wear is actually not bad. It is worn off a bit on my nose and chin, but it's not like horrible. It's not sliding around. It doesn't look like gross. It just looks really broken up on the surface and very like sandy. Okay, my lips look gross because I got a Charlotte Tilbury lipstick and I had that on, and it really dried out my lips. I am back from lunch and it's about time for the 5-hour check-in. What do you think? I think it still looks majorly good. I mean, my thinking about this over the last couple of days that I wore it is that it doesn't start breaking down until about probably the 7 or 8 hour mark. It didn't make it looking perfectly to 10 hours, but it looks pretty darn good in the beginning. I did ask my lunch ladies what they thought of the foundation, told them I was testing it, asked for their honest opinions, and they both said that they thought it looked really good. So let's take a look at it up close, and you can see how it looks up close after 5 hours. Okay, so you can see it's getting just a little bit luminous down here through my chin. Looks like it's wearing off a little bit here, but in general, like, the finish looks good still. I like how it's looking here on my, what do I call that? My Ripley skin, my enlarged pores right between the eyes. It's keeping that looking fairly smooth, not accentuating texture there, so I like that. Where it was settled in the wrinkles before, it is still settled in the wrinkles, so we gotta ding it for that because we don't like it. All right, you guys, I'm back. It's 7 hours in now with the Charlotte Tilbury foundation. Thought we would take another look at it, and while it is still staying mainly in place, it's definitely getting much more luminous through my T-zone. So just going to just blot a little bit in these areas and see if that kind of fixes it up and helps it to be good for another couple of hours. I feel like during the day it's felt really dry and set, and lightweight to wear, so I wasn't aware of it, and it didn't feel as drying today as it did yesterday. Yesterday I felt like it just sucked the moisture out of my skin. All right, I know we're at the 7-hour check-in, but I feel like I should do the pros and cons now, because when I come back later at 10 or 10:30, I'm not going to be able to like speak straight or think right or see clearly, so let's just go ahead and do it now. On the pro side are the really very pretty skin-like finish. I love the finish on this foundation. It's a matte, but it's not a flat matte, and it really looks great on the skin. It feels dry and set right away. I liked it that it's buildable, but it doesn't look heavy and cakey and makeup-y when it's built up more. And it's fairly long wearing. I don't feel like I ever got it completely up to the 10-hour mark without a little bit of a touch-up. So on the con side, the big one, you guys, is that it settles right into your wrinkles. Like within 2 minutes of putting this on, it is in there, it's cracking, it's making your wrinkles look worse. The other con about it is that I did find it drying where it's supposed to be super hydrating. I didn't like it that it felt really drying and made my skin look dry. And this was kind of a mixed bag. Overall, more good than bad. So I definitely think that this is one that you could try, especially if you're a big Charlotte Tilbury fan. Then you are going to want to get this. You're going to want to give it a try and see if you can make it work for your skin. And I hope if you do that you let me know if you tried it and how you liked it. Time for the final check-in of the night. It is now 10 p.m. so 10.5 hours in Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation. And how does it look? You know, from a distance, I think it looks good. It definitely has nice wear. I think the primer definitely helped it to stay less drying kind of around this area today than it was yesterday, so thanks to the Revlon primer. I think it also helped it to stay in place a lot better than it did yesterday, but it's still not looking 100% here at 10 hours. As you saw at 7 hours, I had to blot it. It was getting pretty shiny down the center of my face, but I feel like up close, especially like around here, it just looks kind of dry and drying and a little bit patchy through there. Kind of wearing off a little bit here on my chin, but certainly, you know, not bad for 10 hours. You know, it doesn't look awful. I've seen things that look much worse than this, but it's not going to be breaking into the Holy Grail or the top 5. The Holy Grail will continue to be the Chanel Ultra Le Tint Velvet, so that is an awesome one if you're looking for something. And even though this does have the SD alcohol in it, I don't find it as drying as this, so go figure. But yeah, so that's the full review on the Charlotte Tilbury Airbrush Flawless Foundation for today. I hope you enjoyed the video, found it helpful and informative. If you did, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell. As always, I really appreciate your watching. Thanks so much for your time today, and I will see you in the next video. So have a good night, everybody. Bye-bye.